Excellent. Then we're all here. Okay. I appreciate y'all. Let's do it up. For everybody who, for some reason, might not know, my guests here today are A4Andre, who's in the middle box. Hi, Andre. And then over there in the black box over to the end is Supreme, aka the Battle Lounge. So I literally have a run of dope guests today. Yeah. So we for if you don't come here too often, we raid into Andre's every Wednesday. Andre is majorly, I would say, a game streamer, correct? Andre, that would be your.
Yeah, sure. These days doing a lot of roundtables, but yeah, I'm over the past 6 years game streamer. Yes, entirely.
Okay. So I met Andre a few months back. It was during a brief period when IRI was running roundtables. And he was getting like, it was really, he had like a weird eclectic collection of people. And I went on one night and Andre was one of the guests. And it was actually Andre and Cassidy. And it was a political roundtable. I had no idea who anybody was. And Andre and Cassidy proceeded to spend a little over 2 hours nonstop talking about Andrew Yang, who at the time was polling at 1.5%. And I was like losing my mind. I'm like, oh my God. And then afterwards I was like, hey, you know what though? I remember like 4 years ago when there were people who were totally apolitical, who didn't do politics. They got into Bernie Sanders and all they did was scream facts about Bernie Sanders 24 hours a day. And then Bernie Sanders lost, and some of them stayed very motivated and mobilized, went out, helped, AOC and people like that win. A lot of people just took their ball and went home. Andre, to his credit, doubled down and kept using his game platform to discuss politics with gamers and apolitical people, which is something very rare because, again, most people who first get into politics, their candidate gets snowballed, they take their ball and go home. It's the initial reaction. So my first thing is, so Andre, did you ever get into politics before Yang, or was that like your first like?
No, I'm old. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm old for Twitch and I've been voting and active. I guess I had a lot of opportunities to take my ball and go home. I was really excited about Bernie in 2016, ended up voting Hillary. And, this time around, I was really excited about Andrew Yang, still excited about Bernie. It's just, I guess the political landscape is getting more and more interesting for me, and it's easier and easier as I get older to see the importance and try and spread that importance to an audience of mostly gamers and apolitical people. To their dismay, to their chagrin, they hate it. They wish I'd shut up. We're making fun of Kay Swiftly's performance in the not making fun. She's actually kind of a hero, but we have a couple subgroups. So A4 has like a big Discord with like 1,000 members in it. And then there's like smaller offshoots of it. And they literally posted the Arnold meme where it's like one arm shakes the other arm. And the two subgroups were both like this group, not talking about politics was the handshake. So my community still hates it. But it's like, I think of it, I'm a dad and I think of it as like chores or I don't know, brushing your teeth, hygiene for kids. My audience is a little younger than I am, and I try to make them do their chores because I think when they become adults, perhaps they'll hear the echoes of some grumpy old guy on the internet talking politics. So we'll see if any of it sinks in, but that's the hope anyway.
So that's pretty dope. Okay, and then so Supreme. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Like both you and Andre, y'all are probably about the same age, and then I'm older than both of you. Would be my lay.
I think we're actually the same age.
You and Andre?
I'm 34.
Yeah, exactly the same age.
Yeah.
All right. And you guys, like, I found pictures on Twitter and stuff, like, y'all actually used to go and, like, game at, like actual, like, gaming arenas where, like, people would bring their PCs with them to, like, big, huge, like, LAN server competitive fighting events, right? Like, so y'all have known each other.
We met up at Evo this past year, and I can't remember. I think you didn't go to Evo in 2018, if that's right.
No, I think we ran into each other both. Evo's the largest.
That's right. Yeah. We run into each other at Evo every year, so yeah.
So you're both, gamers who, you do fighting games. You've literally been out on the circuit. I mean, I talk about it very rarely, but I used to play competitive Quake. It was just much longer ago. So okay. So Andre was kind of politically active, but he went the gamer route, and you've built a verified channel not once but twice, Andre. Correct? Like you've this is your second time around.
I'm
So
gonna steal that. I'm gonna start describing my channel that way. Yeah, I built a
not
partner
once
channel twice.
but twice. All right. So Supreme. So you're about the same age as Andre. You came up the same way. You came up gaming, this and that, whatever. Were you when you were a gamer, were you ever like an apolitical, non-political gamer, and then you got into gaming later, or is this like, has this always been your jam?
Well, for a long time, it was kind of weird to talk about politics because I was working for the government at the time, and there were some NDAs involved, and a lot of topics that I'm an expert in. I still kind of am a little bit restricted in talking about, but I mean, I think it's kind of incidental that Andre and I are both here. That you brought Andre and I both on because I kind of take partial credit for the sort of
As
half
you should.
gaming, half political platform we have now. That kind of started with me and Andre just shooting the shit and talking politics and social issues on his stream. I would just come and hang out, and we would just mull things over, talk about stuff, talk about the news, and now it is what it is.
All right. So for me, like I always gamed, and I was never political, but I was like, it sounds like y'all were political before I was. Like I was straight up like I was a chud. Like I was non-political forever. When I got into politics, I was like a Ron Paul douchebag. Like I was just like the worst. I was the absolute worst. So I didn't get my shit together until like late. And it sounds like y'all at least had your eye on the ball earlier than I did. So I guess like first question thing is, so y'all are gaming, you're doing competitive gaming, especially when you're playing Street Fighter and fighting games, which are, on the upper scale of macho brotato chip sort of content. Like it's very broful, it's brotastic, like it's literally like video
It's
games.
funny. It's funny that has that we've heard that connotation because I just feel like fighting games is just the forgotten more than anything. More than it's anything, it's just completely forgotten by the rest
True.
of like video games and competitive gaming and stuff.
And I mean, for what it's worth, like it's for me, it's something in my past. Like I've told Andre before, like I used to play Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat all the time, but like big stand-up machines and arcades surrounded by 40 other dudes screaming and yelling. Like I don't think I've played Street Fighter since what, like the late 90s. Like I don't think I ever played it on like an actual a console. So I honestly I never even knew that it was still like a big thing moving forward because I had always thought of it as they're stand-up machines. So I didn't even realize that it was a game that translated well to video games, to like consoles and PCs. But like y'all been doing this, and obviously you know politics, you have a political thought, but you hang out with mostly gamers. So like when you guys first start to build a channel, or you're building online, you're doing stuff. Are you coming out with the politics right away, or like were you all just like, hey, I'm just gonna like game and do my shit, and maybe I'll chat with people on the side about this? Like I'm assuming both of you came up like front facing mostly with the gaming and not the politics, right?
You'd have to talk to Andre about that. I'm not a streamer, so you would have to ask him about his platform and the
So
one he's built.
I wanna thank DMS again though. Sorry, Supreme, aka the Battle Lounge. I have to thank him again because there was a time I can remember in the 2016 cycle when I just had one Republican friend that I argued with, and my stream hated it, and it would kill my numbers. And this would take me from 3 digits to 3 viewers. He's still around, and most of the community hates him. Dr. Hayes, if you see this, uh, this is just one guy on Twitch I've been arguing with for years. But it was mostly like blue versus red, not very nuanced debate. And again, to the chagrin of the audience. But you fast forward to it's funny because Supreme's channel is the Battle Lounge, and that's where these ideas sort of started. A Battle Lounge is just an online lobby. And to answer your question earlier, fighting games don't translate. I miss the arcade so much. The online experience it pales in comparison. But
Okay, good.
more to how we got here. A Battle Lounge or an endless lobby has 8 players in it, and you have usually you have Supreme winning, and then you have everyone else losing. So Supreme stays at the top and beats everyone, and they queue back up and they queue back up. But while that happens, usually we're hanging out in a Discord. Sometimes we're talking about the game, but I don't know how many times you can talk about how strong Chun-Li is, right? Before that topic sort of gets exhausting. So then the question becomes, what else are gamers passionate about, right? And there's relationships and dating. I think we talk about a lot. There's entertainment. There's movies and music. You have these sort of surface level discussions about the weather and your jobs and how was your day. And then for me, there was always this like in the back of my head, I always had this like thought, or maybe even better described as like this itch to do something with this group. And Supreme can attest that like whenever something would happen in the gaming space, I really wanted to do more and be more active and sort of organize. But I already had a day job. So it was always like, what could we do? And we did a really cool thing called A4 Awareness, where we raised a bunch of money to get SIP chips. Long story short, to test kits because people were getting drugged at events. So at Evo, men and women were both getting drugged. Same thing at TwitchCon. And then after we organized that and raised a bunch of money to buy these SIP chips, I had the bug and I just couldn't shut up. I really couldn't stop talking about these things. And I have to thank Supreme again, largely because he was the voice that went with the itch that led me to like, you don't really have to just play this game every day. People do want to hear you talk, about a variety of different issues. And I balanced, right, this like need to talk about things that I felt were important and could bring change with the casual things like relationships, movies, media, waffles, right, James? Balance these things and sort of create a show that we host every Wednesday that I think is a really good blend and a great way to get people sort of sucked in the way that I was sucked in. I don't even know if I answered your original question.
No. Actually, you really did. Okay, and then real quick, since you keep pointing back to Supreme, going, Supreme's a lot of the reason why I do this. So Supreme, were you ever like even like when you were gaming or you're going to gaming tournaments or you're just on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and most of the people who would know you from gaming, were you still looking to sort of like bread pill and wake people up to, or was this sort of like were you always somebody who talked about politics when they talked about gaming?
In gaming spaces, I would say it was actually pretty difficult for me to find people to talk politics with. Most people just weren't that interested, I think, in the FGC in general. There were a couple people. There are a few people that I absolutely loved. We would spend like 6 hours in my living room until like 4 a.m. just like screaming at each other. One of my old friends, Ski Sonic, who's someone that I'm trying to get onto this platform. I tried to get him onto a couple roundtables, but yeah, I mean, there were a select few people that I really enjoyed talking politics with. But to be honest, for the most part, most people in gaming just aren't interested.
Okay, so and that was my attitude, was that was the norm, was most people aren't like in the gaming spaces. It's not like a huge thing, right? Like it's. I can't imagine like it's. I was hoping you were going to surprise me and say, yeah, people in gaming spaces talk about politics all the time, but
not the case.
No, not the case. Okay, so no. So I'm curious, like how that sort of happens, because act.tv's been around for a while, and we've been sort of like part of our thing is we cover like a wide breadth of the left in the hope that we can scoop up as many people as possible and make light bulbs go on. And when we first were coming over to Twitch, we had the thought that, Facebook's dying, Instagram's owned by Facebook, like, what's the next wave, what's the future? And like they kind of sent 4 of us out to different places to go scout around, and they just randomly sent me to Twitch. And I was on here for like a day, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it right here. This is the shit. And the difficulty I had getting over selling it, when I got back to the office, was people were like, wait, Twitch, isn't that the place where all the video gamers just hang out and yell sexist, racist shit all day? And that seems to be like the overwhelming,
not a far fetch
public opinion. So I thought I would then turn around and again ask y'all, is that a fair opinion, or is it maybe not that bad, or like?
Especially in the FGC, there's definitely a few key issues that I think that we're still trying to work through. I think sexism is one of them, and making like helping women feel comfortable in gaming spaces. That's one that the FGC is still really struggling with. I mean, just this past week there was a pretty large incident. But it also, I think there was a benefit to fewer people being interested in talking about it, because when Andre would have sort of like when a string of sexual assaults happened at a large event, and Andre had like a whole let's talk about how to respect women stream that was sort of FGC oriented, and there were a lot of big name Street Fighter competitors and fighting game competitors that came in, and it's probably the opposite of what you would expect in most politically inclined channels. You had all these people that really weren't interested in talking about politics, so they didn't know the talking points, and they weren't really educated on a lot of sociological topics. So when Andre would talk about, would bring on guests and bring on his significant other and other women and to talk about this, he built a large audience of people that would just kind of sit cross-legged on the ground and listen, like kindergarten or first grade, like a lot of people that are being introduced to new talking points that they're not familiar with, and Andre was sort of the communicator for those ideas. It turned out to be, I think, pretty fruitful. I thought that was pretty successful content the first time around. I know your usual audience wasn't there for that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's sort of what spiraled into what we have now. And I don't want to take too much credit, because even now I feel like I'm just sort of curating an incredible group of. It's hard to describe because it's such a vast array of people, but like I think of Supreme as an intellectual, and some of my community think of him as an elitist, but like I really like the perspective. I'm
an entertainer first, to be honest.
Yes, exactly.
I really just sit in the back and crack jokes most of the time.
but I think bringing perspectives, and it was I think the joy he described earlier when talking with friends about politics was the joy I found when we first had a chat. I remember playing Street Fighter against his jury and thought, oh, this is an excellent Street Fighter player. And as always, I've always welcomed solid gamers into my community, but you can tell when you meet someone who has something. And it is very important to bring those individuals. My significant other at the time, now roommate Casey, was able to bring a lot of perspective to that initial discussion, and still does. Supreme does. So I think it's always just been about bringing the right people together to share the message, and sort of to have these conversations that need to be had in our space. Like Supreme said about sexism certainly is one. It's silly that we're still discussing it, but yeah, as long as we have to, I'll talk about it.
That's awesome. So again, like I didn't know who the hell you were when I met you. And then the first day I met you was like 2 hours of Yang. And I was like, oh, good Lord. And like, I followed Andre, and Andre came into my stream a couple times. I came into his a couple times. But, he come into my stream and I'm ranting and raving about something. Then I go into his stream and he's playing Street Fighter. So like, we didn't really like we didn't talk too much after that. And I literally, I don't know if you know this or not, Andre, but it was literally the week that you were planning the A4 auditorium. I was in somebody else's channel. Maybe it was touring. It wasn't even touring. It was somebody who like I wouldn't have thought of, and they were wrapping up, and they're like, "Hey, let's go raid into Andre." And I'm like, "Oh, I remember Andre." And so we and people always like bail out before a raid, and they go to like whatever their friend's channel is. I like going on raids and like
Me too.
catching somebody even for a minute or two and figure out, is this somebody who's new, who's cool, that like I would want to fucking listen to. And they popped me in, and I was like, oh yeah, Andre, I remember this guy. And literally, as I came in on this raid, Andre's talking about getting like a round table together. And specifically, like, not all political people. I want to have gamers and political people. And then I want to like have political questions and non-political questions. And I was like, And I had just started doing roundtables, and I was like, oh, fuck it. Let me go hop in on this. And literally, I've tried to be the only two I didn't come on in like the last 2 months were both. There were nights I did Big Brain the night before, and I was up until like 7 a.m. And I was just like, oh, fuck that. Like, I was just like, it was just like, I didn't even stream. Like, I had a migraine and slept all day. But like, I've stopped doing all the roundtables, and I still do yours. Like every week, like religiously. Like,
thank you. It's so kind. It's important to have you on. You're the current day Supreme. Supreme is busy these days, but you show up for all of them, and it means the world to me to have people with, like I said, just oh, Kitty. She really wants to jump up on this desk. I'm sorry. No, a different perspectives and well-read political theories, because I am sort of a baby in all this. And again, I feel like you're taking undue shots at Andrew Yang. No, Andrew Yang's a silly man, but he did bring some important things to the conversation, like universal basic income, which I'm still talking about. I don't say his name too much, but we still talk about UBI quite a bit. And Andrew Yang did something also really impressive to his credit is he was able to get K-City. So you already had me, right? I vote every time I can. I vote. I have the conversations, but to get someone like K-City who's like completely uninterested, and a lot of my audience, they didn't really want to hear about Bernie. They didn't even really care about healthcare, as a lot of young people don't. I think free college sort of appeals to the youth, but yeah, Medicare for all is not something. I don't know. It's interesting. I guess I can't put my thumb on why it is that they don't care. But when you talk about giving them $1,000 a month or shooting whipped cream into their mouth or skateboarding around, some of these like Bart Simpson-esque ideas, the easily digestible ones, it was much easier for me to talk to my audience about a politician, right? Because it was instant for them. Now the other issues, universal health care, foreign policy, some of the stuff Andrew Yang struggled on, I was never, you have to love the ideas because the people are flawed, right? And universal basic income is still an idea that I really, really love. And I think a lot of people can get behind. So, that universal appeal is something that I'm hoping we see more of. And that helps me talk politics. It helps me accomplish my mission. So for all his flaws, I'm sorry you have to sit through another 2 hours of Andrew Yang. He's gone now. We don't have to talk about him anymore.
I was literally it was so funny because it's like a whole political roundtable of all these different people, and Andre's on and Cassidy's on. They didn't know him at the time, so I didn't know like they were together or they, anything like this. And so I got stuck in this ping pong match with the two of them on like a 12-person roundtable, and it would be like Andre for 15 minutes, Andrew Yang and UBI and blah 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 in the future, and then he'd stop to breathe. And Casey would go, and hey, let me tell you about what else Andrew Yang could do. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like being trapped in like Laurel and Hardy on meth. And I'm just like standing between them. It was like, oh God, like too much.
James, my introduction to political Twitch was literally me just fighting with Bernie Bros about universal basic income. I couldn't go to a stream and then not insult universal basic income. And it's not that I wasn't, I don't know, I don't want to be combative about it, but political Twitch can be cliquish and exhausting. So by the time I ran into you, I was like, geez, these Bernie Bros. But I love Bernie Sanders too. I don't know.
You ran into some really exhausting people out of the gate, to be fair.
True.
Like in the game, like I'd have to assume it's more exhausting trying to talk about politics in the gaming community that isn't a. Well, actually, wait a minute, hold on. I'm going to stop that idea before I finish it because now it's like the more people know, the bigger of a dick they are about what they know. So
that was the magic. That was the beauty of it. A4Andre could talk all he fucking wanted, and no one would ever want a word in edgewise because they didn't have any ideas. They didn't have any thoughts about it. It was perfect. You could just soliloquy all day.
So, Supreme, do you think, just to wrap on that one, so do you think like there's a, is it as bad in the gaming community as the reputation is? Because like I said, when I came over and I told people, I was like, look, like, I know Twitch might not be like your idea of a thing, but I'm like, number one, it's young people, which is what you want. Maybe people who haven't fully formulated a political ideology yet. And it's definitely like the next wave of social media because it's interactive. Like I call like Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that. I now call that first wave social media because it's one-way engagement. Right. Basically, you post something and then you walk away. And maybe you come back and you field a comment in a couple hours. But it's what I would call static media. It's one way, you put it there, you walk away. And now with like Twitch and some of the other stuff, it's more it's two-way. Like this is what I would now consider second tier, the second phase, the second age of social media, so to speak. And I know like people in politics and chat, all these other realms would love to be able to capture video gamers because video game is like, this is like a huge, wide, broad category. But like I go back and I'm like, yeah, this place is great. Like it's ripe for the picking. And the first thing everybody said was, but Twitch is, where everybody just like dog piles on women and Gamergate and they make people feel like shit and they're just like the worst people. Like it's literally like the shittiest part of the internet. Like you might as well go to 4chan. Like, so, Supreme, was that like, is it fair or is it like,
are you asking about like the sort of concentration of sort of problematic behavior, whether or not that is
the reputation well earned for people who aren't gamers to turn around and go, oh, gamers, don't want to deal with them?
So I will say that I think in regards to that, I think just Twitch chat and people who actually show up to in-person events are two totally different groups of people. And I do feel that Twitch chat for a lot of like pro events and a lot of competitive events that are being live streamed to Twitch, the Twitch chat will paint a picture of one that's disproportionately prone to problematic rhetoric. That being said, like in offline or in-person events, people are generally very friendly and supportive, minus a couple of sort of notorious bad actors that have been called out and are kind of, notorious in the community. But in general, on social issues, I think people are typically pretty respectful in in-person environments. But like, if you were to start talking about social issues with them, it would become very clear that it's not something that a lot of people are used to talking about, or there's a lot of you're able to identify pretty quickly that there's a lot of conversations these people haven't had yet. So that's my general impression. People in person are not hateful for the most part, but still not terribly savvy, I think,
I
on
would
the
think that
issues.
holds true most places, though. I think most people are, in general, shittier on the internet because, quote, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Like, and the trope, and it's always right, is somebody gets really combative online, and it's always, yeah, but if I was standing in front of you, you wouldn't say that to my face. And of course, the angry dude who's half cocked, go, fucking yes, I would. But in reality, we all know, like, 90% of this behavior doesn't happen in person. Like, it happens online because the screen is the gatekeeper and you can get away with shit. And other people will
Right.
cheer you on, whereas in real life, it would just be a silent room of people awkwardly staring around. Like, so I think, like, I wanted to, like, ascertain, like, get from actual people in the gaming community whether or not the gaming community by and large, like, has rightfully earned the reputation it has. And
So fighting games is kind of a different beast, because I think fighting games, like a lot of the people that compete to this day in fighting games, like the heritage is one of offline events, in-person events where people had to develop real social skills and stuff. And then I think Twitch chat is a better reflection of the sort of like computer gaming community that grew out of the early 2000s when like most of the people playing online games back then on computers were like white men that could get away with, just saying the most hateful, idiotic shit. And that's what's carried over into more of the Twitch community that won't be present in an offline event. That's my general feelings on that.
okay. See, this is all good. No. Like I like to like sort of establish this baseline, so like I know like kind of where it is. So then if both of you are, you were in the stand-up game community, you're now in online game communities, and I mean, like, I know Supreme plays a whole bunch of different stuff like on his stream. And then Andre, I gotta say, I don't see you stream games that much anymore. Like between the round table and now you do your bachelor and your bachelorette show.
That's because you're in
like,
bed by the time Animal Crossing starts.
Thanks to quarantine, my operating hours, my hours of business are much later. But I have been recently addicted to Animal Crossing. I like to Switch quite a bit. I play Nintendo titles. I really enjoy. Man, I guess I'm a casual gamer because I really like the Switch. As a competitive gamer, I spent thousands of hours sitting with my fight stick on my lap and like grinding out. It's still in front of me, just grinding out fighting games. But it got old. Playing online sucks. And as I'm listening to Supreme talk about it, it's making me miss offline events in the respect that, I think people generally share in person. And it's really interesting too, because when we think about it, I'm not going to say that the political space is more volatile. It certainly isn't. But I wonder what roundtables would be like in person, because I think there are people that treat others unkindly. I think there are intellectuals who can be very condescending, and I just wonder if the attitudes would be the same in person. I don't know. What do you think, James? Do you think that the roundtables would look different if they weren't over the internet, or do you think?
Again, I think everybody is better behaved in person than they are online, because when you get to any kind of, and it doesn't matter whether it's your digital or what it, in real person or what it's about, like when you get to a point where there's conflict, you then either mediate or escalate, and then conflict either has to happen or, it's staved off by other people. So in real life, if you get into a heated argument with somebody, usually the indicator is somebody pushes back a chair and stands up, and then usually other people in the room will come in and go, hey, everybody calm down. And on digital, they don't have that. So I feel like people go people go harder on digital because they know they can, like, oh, now I'm going to go in all caps. Now I'm going to type really fast. Now I'm going to scream even louder into my microphone. Like,
Right.
but it's, like in real life, I think there are more safeguards and thresholds societally. Like,
Sure.
Society as a culture has been around for, even if you want to talk like basic agrarian societies, you're talking, 12,000 years, the last 12,000 years of human evolution. People have been chatting to faceless people on the internet for like 2 generations.
Right.
So I would say, like, as a culture, it obviously hasn't evolved as much. It hasn't had as much time. So yeah, I would just assume people would be better behaved in real person than they would on the internet. Because yeah, like you get cracked in the mouth in real life if you say some of that shit you type into chat. Like,
I don't know about physical violence, especially in the gaming spaces as well. We don't have, even in the fighting game community where we have had instances of it, it's so rare. It's few and far between, but there is a level of respect.
Nowadays.
And I think, yeah. So yeah. In the arcades, in the dark ages, I used to ride my, well, I guess maybe I had a car back then. I used to print out, so frame data, a frame represents how long it takes to execute a move. So instead of like a second, you break that second down into chunks, and then you use frames to represent how much time, in-game time, it takes. And I had to study frame data, but the access to the internet was completely different, and there was no YouTube video to watch what I wanted to learn. And I had to go to the library to print out the frame data to do better at the arcade, because it was costing me so many quarters to suck at fighting games. So I remember a completely different day, and that was certainly a more violent time in arcades, but there's other fond memories I have of it as well.
oh, hold on, real quick. IRI's in the room. What's up, IRI? So IRI
My
says
man.
we've actually done debates in person at TwitchCon, and everyone gets along mostly. And that would be my assumption. People would be better behaved in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially.
IRI. Andre and
Oh,
I
go
were
ahead.
discussing the reason we know each other was from your short-lived roundtable stint. So thanks, IRI. You're the reason we're here talking right now. Hit me, Supreme. What do you got?
Oh, I was gonna say, that's not surprising also, because I feel like the people that are most toxic in the sort of roundtable culture, and the ones that are quickest to cast insults and I think misbehave in general, are probably, I predict, the first ones that would piss their pants if any sort of in-person confrontation were to escalate. So it's not a surprise that everyone can sort of behave in that environment.
I mean, I'm fortunate. Like, I'm exactly like this in real life. Like, I am no different. Y'all see the shit I talk, and I try to walk a fine line between, when shit's gonna hit the fan, I try to be somewhat humorous and sarcastic and only mildly threatening, because, again, once you get to a point in an altercation, there's, you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. Like,
Right.
on the internet, you can. You can just hit the X button and log off and turn your computer off. Like, you deal with people in real life, like, that doesn't happen. Like, it's a different thing. So
I was just going to say that I think Supreme is very right when it comes to the origin of, and at least the people who have been in the fighting game community for a while, right? Those people genuinely have a different idea of respect and how they should behave on the internet, and we're not all role models. I certainly am not, but
Because we've been punched for bad behavior.
yeah. That's
we've learned our lessons in blood, I think.
I'm old enough to remember what that tastes like is in your mouth when you get cracked in the mouth and bleedle, and you're like,
or if you block for too long. There's two lessons you can learn.
What, you just sit there as Blanca like this for like 20 minutes, and people are like, "Hey, why you dick?" Like, yeah.
Are you talking about in-game violence or violence out of game because of in-game
yes,
violence?
Yeah.
It's spilled over, yeah. That's the thing. Hey, listen, I miss arcade. I'm old enough to remember arcades. Hopping on my bicycle and riding like 6 miles to go to the arcade with a pocket full of quarters going ching, 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 slamming against me like every pedal. Like, I'm old enough to remember that shit. Like, I love that. I thought arcades would be like forever.
Yeah.
Like, you asked me 20 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah. No. I know it's going downhill because everybody has a gaming system at home, but these are still forever. And now there's like 14 Dave and Busters, and like, that's it.
Yep. Keep twisting that knife, James.
Come on, you play
never.
other games,
It's
though,
never coming back.
I know it's listen, I still have like my standing wish is I am still looking for a like, and when I say looking, like being able to find, buy, and have the space for to get an original stand-up Tempest machine in an original box.
I don't remember Tempest. I had a couple arcade cabinets and they just collected dust in my garage. I ended up getting rid of them.
Oh no, Tempest was the original stand-up Atari game where it was basically a circle and
Okay.
you're on a perimeter and you just have a spin control, then like shit comes out of the center and you have to like go all the way around the edges and shoot it, and it was just like a spin dial game with like 3 different shooty buttons. It was like the OG game. It was OG, like Space Invaders, Missile Command,
I remember those, yeah,
Centipede,
for sure. And Tempest.
and Tempest. And that was like, so you're talking like late 70s that game probably came out. Like,
Okay.
So they're just like tough to find. Like I would still love to get one, but like it's not like they're going to be in arcades because, well, you know. Sorry, Supreme.
Stop, James, please.
I'm just saying. I see Supreme play lots of other games, so at least it's cool, right? Like,
I just play whatever, like until people just come in and can hop in and have a conversation with me.
Sure.
And I do feel like there's some obligation if I'm on Twitch to like create some sort of visual experience that kind of, you know, keeps people interested or something, or I don't know. And you know, I like video games. Sure, why not?
so let me ask you: when you guys play video games, do you position yourself in the video game channel, or do you put yourself in just chatting, knowing that you're
It
going to be
depends.
talking? Like,
For me, it depends.
Yeah. What about
I mean,
you,
oh,
Andre?
never mind. I'm not a streamer.
Yes, you
You're
are. I'm kind of curious, Supreme, because you play like a space builder. Fuck, what is it called? Space station constructor, Minecraft in space.
I
Is it
I
Tempest?
guess I build some sort of buildy, or I play some buildy crafty games, stuff that doesn't really require too much focus, but can be kind of dynamic and stuff like that. Stuff where people can be interested in the projects that are being had while we have discussions.
Yeah, I'd seen you playing. You were playing Aliens last week. You were playing. What'd you play? You were playing The Forest a few days ago. Like you play different stuff.
Yeah.
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 But like when you play, do you still set yourself up in the just chatting channel? Like,
So I actually do like anyone who's ever studied drama or anything like that is familiar with the concept of happy, mad, sad, glad. And I try to set up each stream to have a little bit of that. Like we usually move between 4 things in a given stream. I'll stream between 4 and 6 hours. Or this is what I would do if I were a streamer anyway. What I would do is I would set it up that way, and there would be a sort of happy, mad, sad, glad section. You know, one for each of those, right? One section for each of those. So I might play X game that's a spooky, sort of scary game. I might play one game that's sort of like fun and interesting to watch, and then we might watch some feel good, you know, sort of YouTube videos or explorative content or something like that, or some React content that makes me feel a type of way. That's typically the way it goes, or it would go.
and then Andre,
If
do
you
you
were a
like do you
streamer.
specifically stick to like your gaming, so you're in gaming mode and you have a full gaming stream, like, or
No.
do you?
Pretty much flow in and out of games. Usually I start with games because I'm here at my computer. I'll have something to occupy myself with while I wait for people to sort of fill into Twitch chat. And then we usually like go to some YouTube and we'll react to stuff. And you know, like really the video games is at this point is kind of just something I do to start the stream while I wait for people to sort of fill into the chat and we can have discussions.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah, sure.
Or like a backdrop. So Andre, do you now? I know it's a little different for you because you still do like, you know, I see you every once in a while. It'll say you're playing Street Fighter, so I assume you're playing some kind of like crazy ass league shit. So do you sort of like have you gotten to the point now where you have a line between it, like, okay, this is, you know, Andre Roundtable Talkie Night, this is Andre Smashy Fight Game Night, this is Andre Animal Crossing Late Night. Like, do you sort of?
Yeah, no, that's entirely it. That's the schedule basically. We do I'm doing a dating show on the weekends. It's just fun. It's like a silly show. And then the core of it is the auditorium, the Wednesday show where we discuss politics and food. And then Sunday I run one of the larger online Street Fighter tournaments. So every Sunday it's called the A4 Arena. And that actually goes back to the Battle Lounge idea again. There was in Street Fighter 4, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I first started streaming, we got sick of battle lounges. I was actually the Supreme back then. I was the guy who would win all the time, and my audience would just wait in line to play me. But it got kind of boring, and I didn't want to play as much. So we they had a tournament mode which would pair people off, which meant that everyone would get a turn to play. And I found that much more interesting because I could watch matches, do commentary, play matches, and it was just a more diverse format than like a King of the Hill where one guy sort of dominates. So I was really good at Street Fighter 4, best ever probably. No, I'm kidding. But in Street Fighter 4, we would do this tournament mode. And I found that to be so much fun that I created one of the first, if not the first, Street Fighter online tournaments in the A4 Arena. And I still do that every Sunday, even though outside of that, I don't even really play Street Fighter anymore. So every Sunday, I hold true to what, this community first started as. Just a small community organized tournament, no cash prize. It's free to enter. We encourage players of all skill to join. So we do that every Sunday. So you'll probably see that. And then outside of these set nights where I provide content that I think people really want to watch, the tournament on Sunday, the podcast on Wednesday, the dating show Friday or Saturday, I just play whatever the fuck I want. And I find that is where some of my best content comes from. If I'm playing Animal Crossing because I love Animal Crossing, then I want to be there. There was a time towards the end of my Street Fighter V nightly streams where I was just exhausted. It was painful. And I think for a while people liked watching that misery, but what was it? Sad, glad, mad, bad. People got sick of seeing sad Andre. They didn't want me to be, they were just like
frustrated Andre.
Yes, they were like, this is exhausting. This dude.
I hate to say, I get frustrated talking about politics, and I feel like it's what my audience likes. Like, I honestly think a third of the people in my chat come in just so they can, like, hey, how long do you think it's going to be before James blows a gasket and completely loses his shit talking to nobody? Like, I honestly think that's why I saw a third of the people hang out in my channel. So
yeah, they like that. Everybody likes a train wreck. So, but I got sick of being the train wreck and I couldn't do it every night. There's like a near viral video of like everybody rage quits in Street Fighter 5, but I had one moment where I like rage quit and I'd shaved I'd done everything I could do to make Street Fighter 5 entertaining, and I was just burnt out. So I just stopped. I needed more glad than sad or frustrated. So I finally just gave up on, I shouldn't say gave up. I still love the fighting game community. I still love Street Fighter 5. And when local events come back, I think I'd like to do more traveling to those, like local events or major tournaments and do commentary perhaps. I'd love to go back to fighting games in a different way. But the online experience is awful because of the netcode.
It's awful because of the disconnect. The fact that it's not a real social experience.
Very true. Well said.
I literally remember like body checking people, like when you're standing up on the same machine fighting for that extra half-inch of elbow space.
Why are you body checking? Oh, the controls are too close together.
Yeah, because before they had the 4-person with the flared tables, and they just had the 2, and they had the boxed-in sides. So one of your hands would have to be all the way inside that side wall, depending on which controller you had. It was either your stick hand or your button hand. Was wedged. Did
you ever have the broken arcade? I felt like I always got the broken side, always the broken buttons and the broken stick.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was always my excuse. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I get the one with the sticky fight. The B button stuck. So if I play fucking Blanca, like every third time I try to ball you, it's not going to work. Yeah. So you're just a dick. You cheated because you knew this button was fucked up. Yeah. I use that one all the time. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was only a slightly above average fighting game person. I had friends who were much better than me, so I mostly spent my time standing behind 40 other people and like watching people's hands, like watching people play.
Supreme, did you travel in the arcade days? Did you like go to tournaments? I remember getting in like cars driving to like Texas and Arizona to play fighting game tournaments with my teenage friends.
No, I never really drove more than 2 or 3 hours outside of wherever I was living.
See, now, I used to drive for regional Quake arenas. I drive like sometimes 7-8 hours.
Yes, dude. So I'm in Colorado, and we actually got banned from Texas. It was like like an East Coast versus West Coast rap rivalry. They said
Colorado, the whole state,
Colorado. No one in Colorado with a Colorado driver's license will be admitted into the state of Texas. There was like one tournament where we were like shouting. We were shouting at like the Texas players, and we really wanted to win. And there was tens of dollars on the line. We had to win. So we were driving so many hours and shouting at players. The good old days.
I mean, so the Quake arenas Quake Arena got big in like the 90s. Like we'd get like 2,000 people in an auditorium. But they'd put the game on like a projector, and you'd be like, ooh, like it was like the tech was not there for it the way it is now. Like now I watch like these big arena esports things, and I was like, wow, who would have known that's what that would have gone to? Like
It's crazy.
Like it's literally like watching WWE now. Like, yeah, it's kind of a crazy. Oh, they have a new one called Quake Champions. Yeah, well, I was never a champion. I was just an arena game player. So big difference. All right, so here's the big nasty then. So you come up as a gamer. You're mostly a gamer. You know gamers speak. You know bro talk. You understand. You understand the apolitical person, or even the person who's culturally conservative and by default politically conservative, even though they're not political.
Sure.
How do you what's the best way to interject a political conversation? I'm going to use this as the backdrop. So when we came over, my initial idea, when they were like, well, we do politics, you want to go to Twitch, how should we do this? And my first thought was, well, why don't we do games that have correlating subjects? Like, we'll play Tropico and talk about socialism, or we'll play Castle Wolfenstein and talk about fascism while I shoot Nazis in the face. Like, and that was our original thought, what we were going to do. And then we found that there were actual all political channels and people who just talk. And we were like, oh, okay, good. There is a home for us. And so we kind of shelved the game idea. But even when I was doing it in my head, I was thinking, how am I going to have that conversation? Like, even if I'm having a subject that correlates to a game, how am I going to get gamers or people who are interested in a game or a run through or speed run on a game or something, and they come in and I'm playing it while talking about Lenin, and not John either. So how do you do that? How do you discuss politics with gaming as a backdrop, and keep those people engaged? Because I can barely even keep political people engaged. So I'm boggled that you all do it. Like, there's got to be a secret sauce. What is it?
Andre?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about it, and I didn't know if you were gonna hop on, but there's actually some really sharp people in your chat, and I've been reading, and I this is a benefit to me. And then I want to get back to the original point. I am learning so much from being in these political spaces. Even as I discuss Andrew Yang, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Like $1,000 a month. This is, and again, that's going to be my secret sauce, is relating to people with their wallets. But as I read your chat, there's some really great nuanced points about it not being young people. And sure, $1,000 is a great idea, but what's a better idea is like breaking down a capitalist system. And it's like, sometimes I'm not even thinking about the deeper political ideologies. And I appreciate being in this space because I learn a lot. But I think that's why it's easy for me, is because I'm right in the middle. As you like to tease me about, I'm still holding on to, what did you say the other day? I'm at 60%. I'm 60% holding on to the state. I'm still holding on to some of these ideas that I know are not fully fleshed out, but that allows me to be able to speak to both groups, I think, to listen to people who have given this more thought, and to talk to people who have given this zero thought. And again, I do think the universal basic income, Medicare for all, college for all, erasing student loan debt, I think social programs that relate to people's wallets, their livelihood, is the easiest way, right? The net benefits that people could stand to see their lives improve. And when we can talk about how their lives would improve, I think they want to listen, I guess.
Nice. Supreme, any thoughts on how you broach the subject with the apolitical?
Well, I think a lot of Twitch streaming and building a community is based less on the game that you're playing or the topic that you're talking about, and more about your personality. People tend to just gravitate towards personalities, and that's where they hang out. And I think that's something you can offer no matter what you're talking about. So one of the reasons that video games is like a part of my stream is for the same reason you kind of talked about, or Andre talked about, how people just wanted to see him get frustrated. I do feel like I used to have an old joke where when Justin TV first turned to Twitch.tv, I said the reason they rebranded to Twitch.tv is because nobody could remember the name Schadenfreude. It does seem to be like it's not a very catchy phrase, Andre. I'm sorry. But it's not a sexy one.
Andre's like, are y'all talking Latin now? The hell is
But
this?
people typically like the streams that people want to watch in terms of video games, they want to see people suffer. Like
Yes.
they want to watch. That's why Dark Souls
Really?
and like Dota, League of Legends, like competitive games where people lose their cool or are subject to, you know, really difficult situations that they're sort of expected to persevere through, and like how they cope through the failures that are, you know, sort of that sort of come beneath their noses. Um, but yeah, I
That's
mean,
tripping me
like
out.
in
That's
terms
really.
of what's that?
I thought people tuned in to watch people game because they're really good at a game and they want to see somebody like own everybody else. I thought I.
That
This is why I
that
don't game on stream, because I'm like mediocre
no.
to slightly above
You
average, and I don't want to embarrass myself.
that's why you go to twitch.tv, but you don't stay for that because most of the people on the platform, I mean, like, how many Michael Jordans can there be? How many best fighting game players can there be? You could argue that in Street Fighter there's let's say 20 characters, and then there's 20 specialists that are exceptional at that character, and then everyone else is what? The top 5, you know what I mean? The top 10, the top 20, those dudes are trash, and you might even be better than them. You armchair quarterback on Twitch. You laugh at people when they fail. You tell yourself you can do better. It's basically sports. I mean, it's like you'd be surprised how many people on the internet are sure that they're better than me at a fighting game until they play me. But I think that's why you watch, right? You come for the peak moments and then you stay for the reality television, which is like, it's really hard to be the Jordan, and that frustration turns into entertainment regardless of what language you watch it in. Yeah.
I'm
But
totally blown away.
in
Go ahead,
terms of
sorry.
how I sort of inject, you know, political discussion into that is, I think it's just a guilty pleasure of mine. Like, you know, I love fighting games, and video games are great. Games are awesome, but the thing that I love doing more than anything else is fucking like, you know, logic broing people through, you know, thought processes that help them arrive at positions. And my absolute favorite thing to do is like help people make logical connections until they eventually just have, you know, like most people have the same values, right? Like most people have the same values that you do. It's just a matter of articulating them, and you can usually just help them form logical connections until they end up arriving at the same opinion you do on a given political topic, like before they even know it. Even if they're at like, even if they were totally opposed, you know, in the beginning, even if they found themselves at a diametric opposite end on the same issue, like just being able to articulate how you arrived at the position you arrived at is something most people can't do on most opinions they hold. And that's like my absolute favorite thing to do. And we end up doing that because somebody will say something, you know, somebody will say that this is what I believe about this, or this is the opinion I have about this. Somebody else in chat will raise contention with it, and we'll talk through it and form those logical connections. I think that's you know, I think that's a service that a lot of people enjoy being privy to as well.
It is beautiful when you can see the lights go on. Like even yesterday, it happened a couple times. Once to
I was going to
me,
bring
you know,
up
I'm sure.
yesterday. I was going to bring that
Yeah.
up. That was wild. So real quick, hold on. So for everybody who wasn't in Andre's roundtable yesterday, and by the way, every Wednesday I raid in there, so you literally, like, if you hang out in my community, you should know who Andre is. You should know who Supreme is, and you should have like been on a roundtable. So last night, Andre had again a nice balance of gamers and political people, and he had one person in the chat he's an English guy, white, and I'm not even going to say it in the negative. I'm going to say it in because I didn't feel like this was somebody who was like being
Malicious.
misogynistic to be like aggressive and shit on women. He was somebody who was literally sexist and 100% didn't even realize he was sexist. Like totally oblivious to the fact. So when I say stuff like apolitical, talking about politics, there are people like this about societal issues and this and that, where sometimes, you know, you're like, wow, you're really beating that guy over the head with the obvious stick. And they're just like, it's just like a force field of nothingness around their head. And this poor bastard rolled in with some shit ass hot takes. Something about how, you know, women who are streamers who dress sexy on stream, like,
They
are
invite
just
harassment.
contributing to the fact that they get harassed.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's me and 7 other people in this chat going, and to his credit, Andre literally spent 2 straight hours last night walking this guy down the path. Like, between him and Supreme, and again, to Andre's credit, there were women in the room, And Andre was like, here, why don't you have a woman explain to you why this is wrong? Like, and they spent 2 hours on this dude. And there were like 4 different times where I saw the light bulb like go flick, 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 flick. And then like it just cooled and went, and I was like, oh, like, you're literally doing God's work. Cause it was I was like, I literally, like when you were done, I was like, I literally have to get up and go take a crap, not even because I need to take a crap. Like I just like, I gotta
And
go.
one of those guys, I can't remember the first guy that came in. I don't want to mess up his name, but the first guy, not the English guy, but the first guy that came in and talked about how it was maybe just hateful. They were just trying to
Radials.
get a radius.
Yeah,
He actually came into my stream
Yes.
later last night, and we ended up talking about it, even more for like
nice.
a half hour or so.
Supreme, you never want to run a fucking commercial and you don't want to put your name in. It drives me nuts. This dude DMs me after the stream and he's like, hey, what was that guy's name? And I'm like, yeah, the Battle Lounge. Let me give you his Twitch channel. I think he'll be live tonight.
If people want to find me, they'll do the work.
True. It would be a little easier if you gave him the map. But yeah, I like honestly, so yeah, Supreme was talking about it a second ago about why he likes it, or about why he shares his political or sociological opinion. I don't know, man. That is like, if nothing else happened in the stream yesterday, that moment, if that light bulb goes off for him tomorrow, a week, a month from now, it was the best stream of my year. Like, if we can change people's lives for the better and make them happier, healthier, if we can influence change at all, like, doesn't that make this worth it? How many games of Street Fighter do I have to win to get that feeling? A lot. But literally 3 hours of, and I know it's 3 hours, and I know a lot of people, my audience was fucking exhausted with it, but like, isn't that more important than being good at Street Fighter? I think it has to be.
Well, I think I sat in there for the whole 2 hours, and I really didn't talk because number one, y'all were handling it, and then number two, the few times you were like, hey, there's other people in the room. Again, to your credit, you're like, hey, here's a woman. Why don't we all shut up, all us dudes shut up, and have her explain to you what happens every single time she goes to log in and play Call of Duty, and she literally can't talk because if she talks or says a word, the entire game gets derailed, and then it's just like small dick energy coming at her from every angle instantly. Like, so yeah, like I 1,000% agree with you doing it. Like I was, and that's why I didn't like pipe up because
you are just a great
while,
listener on roundtables. You're a great listener in general, and actually, I do think that's one of the greatest benefits of being on those roundtables is just because it forces you to sort of confront and process every idea that's brought to you on the whim that maybe you'll want to respond to it in a way that just sitting in Twitch chat doesn't necessarily obligate you to to really listen to people. And that's something I think you do really well.
And I mean, you've seen me on roundtables. There are times like I go to Andre's, I kind of talk more shit in Andre's because it's cool and it's fun. Like every time I've gone on the political roundtables, and again, like that's how I met Supreme. And to Andre's point where Andre's like sometimes you just meet people and some shit's up. Like I spent 3 hours on a roundtable with Supreme, and like the next day I was hunting him down. Go, you need to come onto my channel and come like shoot the shit with me because he just has a really good way of breaking people's shit down. And so I appreciate like anybody who is like exceptionally good at something, it doesn't even matter what it is, like you tend to notice because it's outside the pale and you're like, wow, that's something I want, I'd like to be able to do that, or I want to learn more about that, or this is somebody who's so good at something, I want to, bring them on and do it here. Like, so, like to your point, I mean, I probably talked to Supreme for the same reason you did after you like hung out with him and he dropped some shit on you.
He dropped shit on me every day. Literally yesterday, he dude broed me into some logic, and I was like, cool. It's weird to me how people, I don't know if you notice this, James, but people are really, they don't like having their minds changed. They really like being right. They prefer being right to like learning. Do you know what I mean? It's so crazy.
I logic broed you. I didn't dude bro you. I didn't go, bro, it's totally not chill to be this way.
He did. He broed me.
Come on, bro.
Logic bro, dude. Was it a logic bro, a dude bro, debate bro? That's the new meta, right?
I did debate bro you a little bit. I did. I logic broed you a little bit.
Anyways, I like being logic bro. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, no. I've completely sworn off roundtables. Like I went on a tear, especially when we were de-indexed and we were totally invisible. And I'm like, I literally have to keep our name out there, or our channel's gonna die. I mean, we were de-indexed for 3 weeks straight, and I was doing 4 or 5 roundtables a week, staying up till like fucking 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I got to wake up at 8 and I have to produce Juliana's stream. Like our morning stream starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. I produce that. Like that all comes through my computer. Like I actually have to be awake for that shit. So
Get the
like I'm on
broadcast
here
as
like
well.
7, 8 hours, and then I go to 2 roundtables. So I was on like 16 hours a day. It was like absolutely ridiculous. And I did all those roundtables for 3 weeks. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. Like at every single roundtable, I would sit there for like 2 hours. I wouldn't say a word. Like I don't want to be the guy who has to crowbar into a fucking. It's always a two-person conversation. Like with 10. This is what I explain to people. And I'm sorry if the analogy bugs anybody, but these quote competitive blood sport roundtables, like all it is it's kind of like a bad heterosexual gangbang that you see advertised in a Craigslist personals ad at like some shady country hotel somewhere, and you get there and it's basically two people fucking each other and 10 other people standing in a line with their dick in their hand trying to stay at least mildly hard. That's it. That's what all the debates turn into.
Oh, I'm so happy about that analogy. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
There is a culture, and I think a lot of it has to do with format, and like I actually see like the roundtable culture to be very to be appealing to people to participate and also watch for the same reason that's like a lot of competitive video games are, is because video games tend to be very dynamic, and there's a great potential for things to happen that you wouldn't have predicted. And so I think people come to roundtables just expecting to have somewhere to hang out, and then the opportunity for something interesting to happen is actually pretty high when you have that many people on and talking about subjects that a lot of people feel very strongly about. It's just very likely to culminate in some sort of personality explosion or something.
It's like I said,
It's not terribly productive. It's not super constructive.
Right, and that's my other point. Like, it's how like everybody bitched about the Democratic debates for like the first 4 Democratic debates. They're like, oh, there's 16 people on stage. Oh, everybody's just trying to get out a bumper sticker slogan, or oh, everybody's just trying to get one hot take that'll make the news tomorrow. And like, that's how I feel about like when you have the huge debates. Now, to Andre's credit, Andre normally keeps it moving. Like Andre literally, like he keeps like a mental it's sort of like a tally of like who hasn't talked in a while, and he like purposely gets people to go. But normally, most moderators are like when two people go in on each other, they're like, oh, here comes the blood. Like, everybody be quiet, let the two of them go at it. And like I don't find it to be productive at all. Like, if I'm gonna do a panel, I'm gonna do a panel with 4 people. If I'm gonna do a round table, it's gonna be 4, maybe 4 people and a moderator tops. Like 12 people sitting in a room, 10 of which are invariably white dudes, is just like Dylan. Dylan had me on a round table last week. I love Dylan. Dylan's a great guy. He had 11 dudes sitting in a chat room talking about abortion. And I didn't say anything for 45 minutes. And he's like, hey, act.tv, what do you think? I'm like, I think it's pretty fucking abominable that there's like 12 dudes sitting here talking about abortion and there's not a single woman on the panel. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Like,
I'm for it personally. I'm pro-abortion. I think everyone should get one. Those are my thoughts.
So Dario. So I see Dario's in the chat. He took offense with my of my thought there. Why? Because men can only talk about abortion from a male perspective, and ergo the amount of understanding that they can glean from listening to other men is limited by the totality of how men can describe and explain abortion and all the social stigma that happens to it and is surrounded by it. You as a man, you don't have to go walk into a Planned Parenthood with 100 shitbags spitting on you and throwing garbage at you. Do we want to let Dario come on and have this turn into debate me, or do we want to keep talking about video games?
Man, I love Dario so much, and I'm happy he's in the chat. And I disagree with him, but it's not his day. We're talking about gaming today, right? But Dario, if you want to argue next Wednesday, I'll even host it. But no, I'm cool today.
Let me disarm this entire conversation.
Okay.
I would be extremely surprised to find that Dario would not agree that there's value in having representation for issues that only select for that type of, for those people, like for the people that are not being represented on a panel.
To be fair, though, this is a prime example of that. I don't want to go in for hours about Dario without Dario.
Yeah,
so,
no, and I'm not like that. I'm not like that. So
yeah. So anyways,
no, and Dario, for what it's worth, Dario and I, we keep saying like we want to get together and like talk about shit, and then the only time our paths cross is either on a round table with 12 people or like after one of us has been on a round table for 8 hours. Like, Dario, seriously, Me and you one day, we just got to like hang out for a couple hours where it's just me and you, where it's not
Yes.
like 12 other fucking people piping in and just like shoot the shit. Like, we should totally do that one day, man. I would actually like that.
Smaller.
Because I like
I
Dario.
prefer.
I just don't agree with him all the time.
I prefer smaller rooms like this, especially if I'm a guest. I get it. I understand why people have 10 guests in themselves. Like I do it, but I don't know. If I'm going to be on a show, I'd prefer, a smaller room. So Dario can't have my day today. He can have his own. No, I don't know. What were we talking about before? We got derailed?
Debate me, debate me, debate me.
Talking about how Dario's wrong about like at least
Shut up.
98% of. Okay.
Dario, I love you and I totally want to hang out with you. Dead serious, man. Like, no. Dario's good. Like I said, I don't always agree with him, but
Anyways.
I watch him and hang with him, so.
Okay, when you say hang out, do you mean you're going to suspend yourself from a bar? James,
Yes.
when you say that, can you substantiate that claim that you would like to hang out with
don't
Dario?
kink shame suspension. It's a thing.
Can we go back to
Suspension
the
is a
orgy?
whole community and lifestyle. Don't fucking kink shame
No,
that shit.
stop. Not after you made the orgy analogy. You made orgy sound like a bad time.
I didn't make it sound like a bad time. I made that orgy sound like a bad time because it's some shitty Craigslist fucking thing in like, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where like, at least 2 of the 12 people got there on their airboat.
So much shame. So much shame on this. I didn't think I was going to be judged so heavily on this stream about my airboat love. Yeah, no, gaming, politics, they sort of go well together. I mean, where is there something you think that politics don't affect? It's pretty universal, right? It bleeds into every facet of life.
I mean, I think politics is involved. You could literally talk about any subject on the face of the planet, and in some way, politics relates to it. For me, well, it's two different things for me. I have my own different issue, which is because we're just flat out political streamers, and so we're in a space where there's X number of political streamers and only X number of people who want to listen to political streamers. So that's its own separate issue that we have, like, and that's like on us. It's an individual thing. But just in general, for me, I always find the most difficult part is how do you get apolitical people to at least listen to political talk, even if they're still going to be apolitical? Like, and so like, that's why I talked about using video game as a backdrop. That's why I think like you, who has an audience that was primarily initially built on video game playing and especially fighting games, you had a platform with, thousands of followers and hundreds of subbies, and then you're just like, yeah, now we're going to talk about why being a sexist douchebag when you play games is a bad thing. And you do it without fear that 90% of them are going to walk out or desub. So like, in my head, I'm thinking, between you and Supreme, one of you has to know the secret sauce for actually like having that first conversation and having people not walk away, because you have to get people to at least stay long enough to be present to become engaged.
So Supreme just said something. He said, well, that happens. Like people are going to walk away. Right. But that's just I think, did I mishear you? Is that what you said?
Well, that is what I said. And I think you just have to make peace with the fact that your style of rhetoric and your personality is at best going to appeal to a certain range of people, right? Like there are certain people are going to be attracted to certain different types of personalities. And like the sort of where you lie on the political spectrum and the sorts of ideas that you're espousing on the political spectrum are going to appeal to a set range of people and probably not deviate too far outside of that. And who you are as a person is going to appeal to people as well. So like where those intersect, that's the market that you should just be hoping to help communicate ideas to. And beyond that, you shouldn't take it personally, but it does happen where people come in, they hear you talking politics and they say, well, I disagree because this, and that. And, hey, good luck with that. So long, jerk, or whatever. Like you do get that occasional comment.
Not just that, but whenever you switch, sorry to interject, James, but whenever you switch, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Whenever you veer off of like, I like the analogy, or I use the analogy a lot about Dancing with the Stars. I love it because you take a professional athlete like Peyton Manning and you put him on Dancing with the Stars, and you're not getting the Monday Night Football audience. Sure, a portion of it, right? But as a streamer, I've switched games. I've tried to switch from fighting games to other games, and I lose a lot of my audience, but I build sort of a new community. And like, it is okay, right, to have people come in and out of your stream, in and out of your life. Like that's a natural part of life.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right. The hope is just that you can make it relatable enough that everyone doesn't completely tune you out. And I think we've sort of discussed already what political conversations are relatable to people. But yeah, like Supreme said, it's okay that people leave. Like that's completely fine.
I
That's
think one of the
fair. And
reasons.
I mean, I'm sure
Oh,
it's a
go ahead.
lot easier to get people to talk about like UBI and their personal finance and their lack of money as opposed to trying to talk to them about Social Security, which they're not going to think about for another 50 years.
Yeah. When I read in chat earlier about, of course, with a corrupt capitalist system, UBI is going to be the thing that people listen to. And you're suggesting that capitalism is a problem, and I don't really disagree. But try telling someone, who plays 13 hours of Street Fighter a day and has no idea what socialism is. You know what I mean? Like you have to start with UBI, I think, or at least something easily digestible to get to that conversation. But yeah.
That, and I think the reason that a lot of people aren't very interested, or aren't well versed in a lot of political realms, but also aren't very interested in the ideas, because I feel like a lot of times political spaces are kind of toxic. I've, the couple conversations I've had over this past week with people that had sort of more right leaning views on more social topics, like hearing them sort of when we're walking through the logical connections, hearing them sort of try to articulate and substantiate the ideas that they have. It's almost like they're willingly eating a spoonful of glass that has a Jolly Rancher in it, and they're trying to get to that Jolly Rancher. They're tiptoeing so hard to make sure they're not saying something that's going to cause people to go, oof, big yikes, like, and like people have to try very hard to not get canceled because they're afraid of like exposing some view that they didn't even know was problematic or something. So I think some of the onus is on us as like communicators of political ideas to give people a lot of leeway. And, when you're discussing through ideas, not to jump at opportunities to cancel people and, toxify like the environment that you're in. It is about communicating ideas to people that are not necessarily on board with them.
And I've been trying to, now I got like 4 different things I want to jump in on there, not the least of which is, Andre, I got stuck working on Dancing with the Stars for 3 seasons. Please don't ever bring up Dancing with the Stars. It makes me nauseous. Like, yeah, I can't, I don't watch it. Like, I have nightmares about Nancy Grace farting. Like,
As
I
long
don't
as you
need
don't
that
bring
kind
up
of negativity, man.
as long as you don't bring up arcades closing.
Okay, that's fair. I will never bring it up again if you never bring up Dancing with the Stars. I'm totally fine with that. I do not need to relive that hell. So yeah, that was one thing. To the point where people say, oh, like the gaming communities by and large, like there's sort of an oil slick of sort of, shitty intolerance and sexism that sort of floats over like the whole like thing. And that you would think that video game people would be more difficult to have good conversations with than political people because political people are engaged. I will straight up say that after all these roundtables, where there have been people on the right and the left and people who are gamers and people who are not gamers, every single person who plays a video game that I have met on Andre's roundtable is somebody who I'm still cool with, who they come by my channel, I go by their channel. Like I see every week now, I see Haitian King, I see Doughboy, I see Voicebox, I see like, people in your community. Meanwhile, at the same time doing politics, there's a solid quarter now of political streamers who think that I'm absolute garbage and shit talk me all the time. And all I try to do is just like, I'm just like trying to blow past it. I'm just like, yeah, leftist unity. Okay, let's keep going. Like, so I'm
What
just putting
unity?
it out there that the
I,
gamers seem to be a lot more open to having conversations than people on the left who want to play well, I'm more
well,
left and political than you are.
yeah. Okay, so this brings up another thing that's sort of difficult in politics is the tribal mentality and how divisive it is. That's why a lot of people are so quick to not want to have the conversations. And also, James, shout out to the gamers in chat today. I see you guys. I
see
know
you guys.
you don't. I know you guys don't like politics, but you're here, and it means a lot to me. I hope you watch this stream when I'm not here. I love James and what he's doing. Please watch him every day.
Appreciate that, man. Trust me, and I'm glad. Like I've often talked about how, even though act.tv is we're an org that's deep in politics. a lot of what I try to do is base level. Like I try to give people the vernacular so that they could actually watch, you know, a political show or read about politics and not just be lost by it and then get frustrated and say, "Oh, fuck this."
Yeah.
Like you know how many times I read the word bipartisanship before I actually knew what it was? Like, you know, like weird shit like that. Like, you know, if we debate about, you know, how horrible libertarians are, I'll spend an hour going over the definition of capitalism just so everybody understands what capitalism is. Like, I listen to Supreme when Supreme has conversations with people, somebody will say one sentence and Supreme will be like, "Whoa, hold on. Let's examine what you just said." So like 2 hours later, Supreme has a 9-word sentence. He's now broken down every single word. So what did you really mean by this word? And the next thing you know, like 4 hours later, like the person's like crying, and Supreme's like, "Good, now we understand."
No, come on. I don't think that's a fair characterization of what I do. Okay.
I would agree.
And
You are
if I wanted to do that, I think I could pretty well. You know, if I were a sadist. But
But no, but seriously, like both of you, like, and this is why I appreciate you. You guys take the time to have the conversation more than just saying, "Oh, you know, that's a garbage hot take." Like, "Oh yeah, yeah, why not just stop saying garbage shit?" Like, you'll actually take the time to talk to people. Like, I watched you spend 2 hours last night trying to explain to a full-on sexist dude why he was a full-on sexist dude rather than just
to be
cancel him.
honest, I'm not proud of that example yesterday. I do feel
right.
like, you know, that one was a little bit exhausting, and maybe not as much progress had been made as I would have hoped, which kind of keys me into the idea that maybe I need to sharpen and sort of hone my talking points on that topic. That's what I really took away from that. But
Yep.
I don't care to prove to somebody that they are not correct. I am more interested in helping somebody understand why. You know, like it doesn't do anything for me to for someone to like know that they are wrong. It helps everyone when you can articulate why they should hold a certain position, you know, if they truly have a certain set of values, why it should extend to these positions or whatever.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I would agree it wasn't a slam dunk yesterday, but I do think there's value in that effort. I think it was valiant, and maybe not was as much as accomplished. I don't know. It's tough. It's always tough.
see, now I
Persuade.
honestly think it was a great conversation. The problem is when you have 12 people,
Right.
it's and you know you're already feeling, you know, your ears are getting red and you feel kind of sizzly because you're semi embarrassed because you know everybody's staring at you thinking you're an ass. Then you know you're looking at 11 other people staring at you, and even if you're not getting dogpiled, you're feeling dogpiled. Like at some point you got to cancel it and go, "Hey, listen, at least you got an idea. We should talk about this later, whatever." And that might be the continuation.
Oh,
That might be better as
that
one on
was the
one or a couple of
conclusion.
people or
I DM'd him and we had a conversation after the stream. But yeah,
yeah.
continue.
And but that's fine. But like y'all take the time to have those conversations, and again, I think. And I wanted to bring you all on as examples because you kind of have one foot in gaming and one foot in politics. And for me and a lot of political streamers who just do politics, it just becomes like I feel a lot of people, especially in this space, are very quick to write people off. Like I feel like the cancel culture is far greater over here than it is in the quote cesspool that is gaming communities that everybody in politics hears about. Like I've seen people like gamers sit in your chat and listen to somebody get explained to them why they're, you know, what is sexism for 2 hours. You know, meanwhile, I've seen people in political chats, you know, make one comment in chat and the streamer's just like, "Oh, that's a shitty hot take. You're garbage. You're banned." Arr.
I mean, I'll outright say it. You know, this is a strong statement, but I honestly think that the cohesion or efforts towards cohesiveness on like the Twitch progressive politics platform is an outright mess. People are just so much more interested in protecting, I think, their own platforms than they are in working together. Or people are so quick to find an excuse to eschew like an entire human being and their entire set of beliefs, even if they're 99% aligned, if they can just identify that 1% where they differ. And I don't think this is a strategic thing or even a conscious thing. I think this is just like the tendency of a lot of people in leftist politics. I don't know why, but I think we need to get our shit together.
I would agree. I also don't want to paint the gaming space as like a a happy, you know what I mean, like rainbow filled portrait. There's certainly bad apples, and I guess not even bad apples, but I guess I would just say that neither of the spaces are unique, in that there are good and bad faith actors, right? I mean, It's unavoidable, regardless of what you're playing. Whether you're playing politics or you're playing Street Fighter, you're gonna have people from both sides.
I
Okay,
think
yeah.
I think it's a real problem if like the entire I believe one of the most fundamental progressive tenets is giving people the benefit of the doubt, offering second chances, forgiveness, and like constant efforts to rehabilitate or educate or recommunicate ideas. And we like, how can we expect to communicate ideas to people who don't already share those ideas with you if we can't even stay friends with people that we're like 90% politically aligned with?
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that there are outliers though. And this isn't like I'm not saying we should cancel everyone, but there are outliers. There are, I don't want to keep saying bad faith actors, but there are people who I think intend to do harm, and it's okay to sort of
Yeah,
not share
absolutely.
spaces with them. But I don't think that's what I don't think you're getting at. We should share spaces with, maladaptive people.
You should be able to demonstrate that that's the case, though,
Correct.
if you're going to make that indictment.
Correct.
And that's right. And like I said, like I came from, especially being on Facebook and on Twitter for years, like I came into Twitch like being like, oh great, like now I found that there's political streamers on Twitch. There's actually political people. Cool, I can go here and enter the political realm and have political talks with people who are woke. And that magic fairy dust sprinkled on top of shit lasted about 6 minutes.
What does woke mean? I thought woke was in relationship to black culture. I guess it's like it's different now. Woke,
So
woke
woke has just gotten to mean
culturally aware.
anybody who becomes culturally aware is now woke.
Okay.
And I'm like, I literally hate the word, like, which is why I talk about like converting people from apolitical to political. Like it's a much better term than now they're woke. And it's like, oh great. Now Susie's gonna go buy a coexist bumper sticker and we're all good. Problems are solved. There you go. Wokeness plus a coexist bumper sticker. We good. Like,
Right.
so I try to avoid that shit, which is why, again, like, I think y'all have the harder work because you're trying to get people who play games to, you're trying to make apolitical people political. I'm trying to make political people with shitty political opinions have less shitty political opinions. Like,
I think your work
white
is.
people
I
should
think
know
that.
better. Like,
No, I think that work is harder. I think someone with no bad habits is easier. Like let's say we're talking about teaching someone a fighting game, right? If you teach someone who has a lot of bad habits really ingrained in them, they like to play risky, they like to mash buttons, whatever that bad habit
that's
is,
me.
breaking that bad habit is significantly harder than teaching someone who just doesn't know how to play the game at all. So I think your work is harder, but who says we're doing work at all? I actually really enjoyed my time on Twitch and don't feel like it's work. And honestly, if things keep going the way they do, maybe I never go back to work. My channel is killing it right now. I don't mean to flex. I'm just really excited.
You should flex, man. Listen, I was de-indexed for 3 weeks as it was, and as it is, like even without that, like we're Twitch cockroaches, man. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate when
Yeah.
anybody comes by and hangs out with us. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like it frustrates me to no end, but like I'm super stoked for the community that we have. Like every time somebody like I see somebody who keeps coming back and somebody folds into the community, like I got like the base 70, 80 people that we get, throughout the course of most days. Like I love the fucking community we built. It's been amazing. I go
It's a
into
good
like
group.
yeah, no. We got like great people. And like I go into some people's streams and it's just like people know like their chat is complete trash and they just like ignore it and just let it go, and it's like I don't know, it's kind of like almost irresponsible. Like like I'm glad like we're at a good size. I have a good community. They contribute. They like content. Like I'm all right. But then on the macro scale, I find it frustrating sometimes. I don't know, how do you reconcile that? Because I mean, you had a channel, right? This is your second go around, right, Andre?
Well, it's the same channel, but yeah, it was suspended from Twitch for 6 months, and as it's been rebuilt, it has political opinions, it has dating shows, it has the content I want to produce. But yeah, largely it was. I mean, it's hard to say it was bigger. It had its ups and downs. When I first achieved partnership, my stream was significantly larger. The standard for partnership was 500 concurrent viewers, so it was larger in the Street Fighter 4 era of things. And yeah, it was actually more toxic. There's if you do a search on Reddit, there's a throwback to when I would browse Tinder on stream, and it was kind of the wild, wild west. And I really just did whatever I thought would get me the most views. Which was good and it was bad. I mean, some of it was fun, and some of it, looking back on it, was honestly kind of gross. And I wish I'd never taken that route. And now that I create the content that I want, and the audience size doesn't matter to me nearly as much, I'm not pandering or, browsing Tinder just to get views. I don't know. I'm so much happier. But as far as responsibility for chat's behavior, I guess it's really tough. It depends on how your stream is formed. If you start out as a smaller streamer and your goal is to grow, then you have two paths you can take. You can let chat be a lawless place and kind of say and do whatever they want. And there's some credence to growing fast that way. But there's also the flip side of it, that if you have people, I guess alludes to what I was talking about earlier. We were talking about content creators, but more specifically audience members, those who are participating in the conversation. If you have people that are awful in your chat while they are viewers and they are chatters and they may be subscribers, you may be eliminating, right? If your space is so toxic, you may be eliminating potentially great people. Like, imagine I miss out on a dude like Supreme because I'm unwilling to ban someone who is sexist. Supreme comes to the stream, he sees sexist text in chat, I'm not addressing it. The guy's a mod. Maybe we never meet. So I think it's twofold, but I would say that you will be happier in the long run as a streamer, as someone who's been on the platform for too long, if you, try to keep your audience at least reasonable, or at least hold them to some standard of human behavior. Cause on the internet, we get pretty far from that sometimes.
Yeah. Hang on real quick. Cause I just, so Lauren is in the chat. Good day, Lauren. So Lauren's a friend of ours. She's all the way in Australia. She was actually also our first moderator. She was our first ever moderator on the channel. Lauren, I have a present for you. I've been waiting to see you all day. I just want to make sure you know. We are not doing our morning streams tomorrow. No Juliana in the morning. No me in the morning. Jocelyn is going to be on at 11 a.m. with Alex Lawson from Social Security Works, who's been on CNN and MSNBC all week. Tomorrow afternoon, my time, which would be Saturday morning, your time, Lauren, I'm going to be on from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. with the Juice Media live from Melbourne. I finally got him. Took me 6 months to coordinate with Giordano. Finally got his ass. He's going to be coming to us from the future. Well, because it's Friday night here. It's Saturday morning in Melbourne.
How far ahead are they?
14 hours.
Jesus.
So Giordano's going to wake up bright and early on Saturday morning, kick on his stream, and he's going to come in and we're going to talk about the Juice Media, honest government ads, the hip hop news, all that good shit from him. Find out what's going on down under. Lauren, like I said, Lauren's OG. She's been here since day one with us, and she was our first mod, and she's down in Australia. So I thought I've been teasing trying to get the Giordano on for ages, and it looks like we finally got him. I'm still waiting to see if we can get Bo to come on tomorrow too, but 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, that's us. Sorry, I don't want to
Congratulations.
Preempt the people on my channel with people who are coming on the channel is a little shitty, but it's just because Lauren was here. And she's
we're friends. You can be shitty. You've spent so much time on my channel. Please do whatever you need to do.
Dude,
I'm here.
I love your I've done so many roundtables now, and I've been on a bunch of them with Supreme, so Supreme knows. I go on every other roundtable I go on. I'm silent for 2 hours. I read the room. I fully listen to everybody's shitty hot take. And then I drop fucking thunder. And it's what I did for like 20 straight roundtables. And then I go on Andre's roundtable and I can talk about how waffles are badass. And I don't have to come to blows with somebody who's like a verified partner. Like, to the best of my knowledge, like fucking, I've got like Hark Dan, North the Mage, and fucking Central Committee are like all having a contest to see who gets my head on a piece of fucking wood first. I'm like,
yeah,
they're all cool though.
It's a lot more fun to be friends than enemies, isn't it? Well, sometimes it's fun to be enemies too.
Look, if I have to do that 3-4 times a week, there's no way I don't experience immense fatigue. Yeah, the Yang era was a tough one for me, but I don't mind arguing. It's just if that's all I do, I don't know.
Well, I felt bad for you because Yang was a tough argument because UBI, like as a theory, is a very great theory.
Sure, but you add on value added tax and
like there's like 20 other steps that have to occur before UBI. So to have the UBI conversation, you really have to talk about like like macro level economics as a whole before you can get to the point where UBI is rational. So it's a tough lead in. Like it's like trying to be the lead in on fucking anarchism. Because
that's
people
the same
are
with
like
single payer healthcare, right? Like,
and
another issue that we're trying. That's like another thing that I think a lot of people on the left really want, but it's going to happen incrementally the same way. Like there's a lot of legwork that has to be done before we can implement something like single payer healthcare. So I understand the efforts of like trying to get the discussion started about UBI.
Also, I guess
it's just a tough lift. That's a tough lift.
I was more speaking towards the political attitudes than the infighting and the exhaustion that you experienced. I'm not in the Andrew Yang era, so I don't experience it anymore. I'm generally like, I hang out with everyone. I like everyone. I get along well. Casey makes fun of me. She's like, you don't piss anyone off. You need to be meaner. I'm like, that's actually not who I am. So I'm not going to do that. But it's interesting if you have a differing opinion even slightly, right? If I'm like, yo, I love Bernie Sanders and I love Andrew Yang, and people are like, are you a child? You think you can just give everyone money? And it's like, whoa, like I thought we were on the same page. But,
so act.tv gave a ludicrous amount of coverage to Bernie Sanders' first campaign. I was embedded on the 2016 trail. We live streamed and recorded hundreds of Bernie Sanders rallies. This year it comes around. We are all behind Bernie Sanders again. We actually, we had a contract with his campaign. We were live streaming his rallies. We're the ones who pitched him a Twitch channel, which is why he has a Twitch channel now.
Does he really?
That's how.
No. I know he has a Twitch channel, but you did it?
We literally had a full meeting with them where we had the live stream content. We were doing all their live streams and we went in for a meeting. And we're like, contracts coming up. We can expand services. Here's some stuff we've added. We think Twitch would be really great because it would be interactive with the community. And literally the pitch was, I want to play Castle Wolfenstein with Bernie Sanders and shoot Nazis in the face while he talks about socialism. And people just looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, or somebody else could play Minecraft building a socialist utopia while Bernie talks about socialism. And they were like, huh. And then 2 weeks later, they didn't renew our live stream contract. And a week later, Bernie Sanders had a Twitch channel.
Yeah, I was actually in talks with Andrew Yang's people. I was in talks with his team about his Twitch channel, but they really didn't want to listen. They did some really abysmal, I don't know, enough Andrew Yang. Yeah, I'm happy that's over.
But the Sanders
I wanted to do what you did. I really wanted to be a part of, like, people are scared of Twitch. They're like, do you want to do what? Where? With live?
I keep trying to bring people over, and people like from Facebook, they're like, oh, isn't that where everybody's a rapey video game player? And I'm like,
incorrect.
No. Like, what the fuck video game are you playing? Like, I'm playing Mario Kart. Like, you need to dial that shit back a little bit. No, but like, straight up, so when you're talking about how like people just slightly disagree, so we're like complete Bernie Sanders stands. Like, act.tv's been supporting Bernie Sanders since day one. Sure. I came on here like a couple months ago, and after Bernie got blown out, and I was like, well, number one, the DNC, all this other shit, and people are like, yeah, they fuck Bernie, and then this happened, they're like, yeah, they fuck Bernie, and I'm like, yeah, and let's be honest. Bernie Sanders didn't really do well with people of color 4 years ago. And rather than getting a national, black voter coordinator, they just went out and hired two stands like fucking, Talcum X and somebody else and said, hey, look, black people support us. And how did Bernie Sanders do? He had 4 years to lick the problem. And all he did was he went up 1 total percentage point in black voter support. And I'm just talking about this pragmatically and realistically because this is what happened. He did not get a national black voter coordinator, even though he has a Latino one. Like, he had no outreach into large black groups. He just got Sean King and figured that would be cool because I have a black friend. And, like, people on the left lost their shit. And, like, rolled up here with torches and pitchforks. Like, how dare you say something that actually happened that you're right about? You're
not going to criticize. That's the Messiah. You can't talk about him like that. You have to agree with everything, or there's a fight.
It's true. That shit happened. Like literally, he had like whatever it was, like 11% support in the black community in 2016. He was like 12% this year. Like if you know this shit's a problem and you have 4 fucking years to work on it, and you literally do no better 4 years later, I think there is a valid critique somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, and the only problem is that you're not allowed to critique. You must agree or fight to the death.
I just looked over. We have 18 viewers left. See, that's what happens. You criticize Bernie Sanders, it's over. Like, no, but he got to be real. So I felt for you on the Yang thing because that was a fucking uphill climb the whole way. So let me ask you. So now all the progressives are out. Now you're down to MAGA or blue MAGA. You know, that's pretty much where you're at.
Not great.
Do you slink back into the dark corner and just spend more time playing Zangief, for? Is this where you? I was
do
never
like
a Zangief
Zangief
fan. I was all Dawson all the way.
Dawson was the worst.
I was
I
stretchy arm double punch.
I like brown representation. Supreme, you take this one. Are you pointing that at him?
What is it?
I think the conversation is moving towards what do we do now with the current political landscape? Do we?
Yeah, like I mean, like I thought it was really good. Like you had very good counterpoints, to talk to video game players about stuff, because there's so many progressive policies and attitudes there in the ethosphere that you could just like snatch one or two and bring them in, and it's very easy to find articles. Now you have like MAGA or blue MAGA, and we have coronavirus. Like, how do you still find those nuggets that are in the public eye to sort of bring to?
Well, that's easy to answer. Not everything you talk about has to be novel. Not every time you talk about something does it have to be the first time anyone's ever conceived of an idea. There are a lot of people's, like I said earlier, like talking with people in offline events. Oftentimes, I mean, there are a lot of people that haven't really, gone through any of the preliminary legwork on even the most basic topics. So I think there's a lot of value in having the same conversations over and over again. You revisit it. You maybe stumble upon something you kind of didn't discover the first time, or you didn't really consider enough the first time. You consider it with a new perspective this time around. I don't know. I mean, the world is so dynamic. There are infinite topics to talk about potentially. I mean, yeah, I don't ever feel like there's really going to be a content drought in terms of being able to talk about, current events or politics or sociology or anything.
Okay, I mean, I was curious because I figured, with Bernie running and this and that, there's a heavy schism between the left and the right on these ideas, so it's easy to point out. And now you're getting to the point where, at least talking about just politics, especially electoral politics, now you have to be real granular, because now you're talking about, why are Democrats actually centrists, and what's the deal with the Electoral College, and how does legislation actually get made? Like now you're in the weeds on shit talking to apolitical people. So I'd have to assume if you're talking to gamers and apolitical people, it's easier to talk about broad stroke subjects than, like granular shit. And, now we're getting to that part of the campaign where it's granular shit. So,
well, at the end of the day, like, that would be probably more what you guys do, right? At the end of the day, you have to have the conversations that people can be reasonably persuaded into, right? Like, you wouldn't have a conversation that's extremely granular and intersectional with somebody who has barely a basic understanding of that issue, right? Like, you're just going to scare them away. It's just going to be daunting for them and intimidating. They're going to lose interest very quick. I mean, you have to engage with people on the level that they are going to submit themselves to engaging to, So, like, again, there are so many different perspectives and so many steps on the ladder to reaching any sort of opinion in terms of like policy, that there are just so many conversations you can have. It's limitless. And for every perspective that could be had, there are, dozens more that the same topic can be argued from or examined from.
See, fucking Supreme gets all deep on shit, and you're like, wow, I feel real base now. See,
hang on, I got to do a bong rip.
Thanks there, Supreme Waves.
Yeah, Supreme Waves. True in the chat. True.
Okay. All right, I'm good to go. Good to talk a little longer.
Woo! Nice.
I'm stone sober on act.tv. Listen, I would never do an interview anything less than stone sober. Okay.
I'm high all the time. I'm on here. What the fuck?
For the memes. It's for the memes.
Why do you think I have to play a video every 2 hours and get up? You think I'm peeing? I'm old. I can go 3 days without peeing. I don't care. Come on, give me a little credit here. All right.
Enough.
So as we mosey towards here, so Andre, what's the future now? You got the A4 roundtable. You're bringing the political and non-political together. You're doing like Bachelor and Bachelorette, which I gotta say, every time I see it, I'm like, well, Raj probably isn't sweating quite yet, but this is a thing. Like every week, I see more and more people on there, and I see like political people. People are like,
Yep.
totally political, like hyper feminist, and they're like, sure, I'll go on the A4 Bachelorette, and I'm like, the fuck is going on here? Like, so you must be doing something, right? Like,
It is always surprising to me who is interested and who isn't interested in doing a silly fucking dating show on Twitch, but it's honestly a lot of fun. I like hosting it. I think probably I'd like to do a third show. I'd like to reduce the amount of guests. I don't do a ton of promotion on these things, on these shows, because I want them to be like refined. I want the steel to be sharp. So the dating show is actually coming down to a science. The auditorium is still just all over the place, but the dating show, I'd like to reduce the amount of guests, probably the auditorium as well, and have like
a better
I don't know,
conversation.
maybe more concise conversations where everyone gets to participate. But for right now, we're sort of just like seeing who does what, who can play this role, who can do this. So, but the dating show has a great format. We have 10 guests on, and then I'm the host, and then obviously and then whoever everyone is vying for their attention. I'd really like to do a third show, and I have a bunch of ideas about what that third show would be, but I'd really like to have 3 podcast shows a week, then probably the large Street Fighter tournament on Sunday, and then whatever new games are out. Like I'm addicted to Animal Crossing, as we mentioned, but whatever's in the current cycle, I'd like to play new games. But yeah, a third show, and I'm accepting ideas, and we're always looking for new people to participate. More important than watching, we always need new guests. So I definitely would like to refine the content I'm already creating, and get those shows down to a science, and then introduce a third one. I don't know. Raj has no need to sweat. A lot of people, just like in the political spaces, want to pick a team and are like, "How dare you steal the show that Raj stole?" Like, I think Raj is doing a tremendous job. He has an incredible production team. All the people that work on that, you can tell they're doing a good job, because at the end of the day, he's got a great product. And we're trying to do something just a little bit different. We are prioritizing, and all of these shows, it's difficult because of how many guests we have, but we're trying to prioritize the guest experience. And the reason why that's so important to me is because I think that translates into better content. I think if we put the audience first and make the content creators cannibalize each other, I think at the end of the day, the show will suck, and it will be hard to find people who want to do the show. So the guest experience is paramount for me, regardless of what the third show will be. On the 2 shows we have, we really want the guests to enjoy their time. And we'll stick with that. And, maybe it'll be an anime show. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the third show will be. It's got to be something that really pulls me in, but I'd love to do a third sort of just chatting broadcast. So we have the talk show, the dating show, and then a third. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be that. Sunday for Street Fighter, and then whatever new game is out for the rest of the week. But yeah, I think that's what the channel will probably evolve into. We'll see where it goes.
That's nice. No, and I like that you're keeping it a blend. Like you're literally at the point now where you can't even be called a video game streamer, fighting game streamer. Like you're pretty much a variety streamer at this point.
Yeah.
Like if you look your total number of hours of broadcast per week, and then look at how many of them are spent just gaming, you're a variety streamer now.
True. The only problem I have with variety is that I think obviously everyone's different. And if you're, Pokemon, you can do whatever you want and people will tune in. But I think people like some sort of structure. They have their favorite show. They have their favorite night of the week. So some sort of schedule and some sort of pattern to the variety. Do you know what I mean, James? Is like new games a couple nights a week, podcasts a couple nights a week, and then our Street Fighter tournament. So I think if people know when to tune in, I think we'll maintain the growth pattern that we're on right now, which is pretty steady. I'm very happy with.
You should grow. You're like I said, man. You're doing some rough shit there. It's oof.
Thank you.
Uh, Supreme. What's your thought now that we're down to the Bidening? Um, how do you keep onboarding the apolitical? How do you develop your channel and your programming? What's the haps? What are we gonna do? Save me,
Well,
Obi-Wan.
I mean, what I'm doing right now is just, I think trying to provide a space where people can go and relax, and we can have discussions that are politically motivated or related in some way, and people aren't worried about getting, their heads jumped on or chat jumping on their head. I think I'm really proud of the space that I've cultivated at this point, which is, I feel like we've had quite a bit of varying political viewpoints, and all the chat that's been had. I have some really active chatters, and like all the discourse has been really responsible, and nobody's been yelled at or shut away. And we've been able to have some really calm conversations about some pretty heavy topics. I'd like to continue with that. Obviously, variety streaming is a good way to go. Tuesdays, I'm doing debate night at the Battle Lounge, and I'm trying to make that the most productive debate sort of roundtable that there is in this current sphere. Well, I mean, I do think that there is a lot of function and a lot of value in having debate,
I
because,
do too.
yeah, if you have a given statement, and two people take contention with that statement, or they find themselves at opposite ends of it, I think it is really important in being able to generate rhetoric or demonstrate the logical step that is needed to reach the position that you have. And like, I am most interested in having a platform for debate that is maximally productive, and provides a lot of utility for people to have a lot of ideas articulated. So I'm
So not
doing very
12 people at once.
very small panels, 2v2 max, preferably 1v1, with uninterrupted opening statements and cross examinations, and then uninterrupted rebuttals, and then some crosstalk, but such that it's heavily moderated. I won't tolerate any yelling or screaming whatsoever. And we do, if you've ever seen the Intelligence Squared debates, that's a very good debate series. I thoroughly enjoy watching all those. That's really helped me articulate a lot of my own political opinions and reach some new ones with a better understanding than I had before. That's the whole goal. We do a poll at the very beginning and then one at the very end to see how many people's opinions changed, or, like how people's opinion has been swayed due to the discourse. But that's what I'm doing Tuesday nights. I'm doing some a D&D campaign. I've done some voice acting in my life, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, I guess some stuff still on the drawing board for what I'm going to do other than that.
You
But
gotta
thank you
get
for asking.
you gotta get Voicebox TV, aka Mr. Nice Voice, up on that.
That might be interesting.
I want to ask about the format. It seems like we might be wrapping here, but I want to ask about the format and the optimal size. Do you worry about? I mean, I guess the content doesn't have to be long form, does it? I worry about a 1v1.
1 hour to 1.5 hours. I want there to be an expectation that
Yeah.
anybody can tune in and watch the whole thing from beginning to end.
That's
The
smart.
whole just letting it go until like people are just fucking exhausted and collapsing on the ground because they just can't suffer like talking about the subject anymore. Like letting things go as long as they can. That is not going to happen on my platform. It's 1 to 1.5 hours.
Nice.
That's
So
it.
I've done with all the blood sport roundtables I did 1v1 debate, and it was on Dylan's channel, and it was with last username, who's apparently
Ooh.
Canada's only libertarian, and it was a debate about the foibles of Ancapistan, the lovely magical land filled with rainbows and unicorns and pixies and apparently police that you can hire that don't work for the state that totally won't break the law. But anyway, I digress. And so we had 2 hours, and we went 2 hours, and honestly, the whole time, like, Dylan was just texting people because, like, we didn't, like, he's so Canadian, he was, like, respectful. Like, he wasn't, like interjecting or trying to, like, talk over me, and it kind of, like, made me not want to be a dick. And, like, we had a very good 2 hour debate, and there wasn't 12 other people trying to stick their dick in the mashed potatoes. Like, it was all good. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, I think 1v1, 2v2 for like an hour or two is the best way to go. I'm 1,000% with you. I have no urge to do 12-person roundtables anymore, other than with Andre. Because it's
We
12
have
people,
fun.
not 12 opinionated assholes. So,
Last username, I feel like actually he's doing us a service by never raising his voice because I think he's got a powerful voice under there, man. Like he's like it always sounds
He
like he's
does.
whispering, but even then it's like, well, under my system, yeah, you would have private police. And if he yelled, I feel like it would be like the Alanis Morissette moment from Dogma. Everyone's head would just explode.
No, I feel like you would go Christian Bale Batman.
Oh yeah, maybe.
That's how I'm thinking, because he's like,
Why don't you want to hire private security?
private police are the same as the state police, but without the government. Whoa. Calm down there, Bane. Calm down. All right, so let's so needless to say, every Wednesday I am on the A4 auditorium over at Andre's until he will no longer have me. We come in early, we raid in, so we seed his channel. I usually spend 2-3 hours, and then I voluntarily leave so that the large crew of people standing behind me, most of whom usually seem to be women or people of color, so that they can come on and have a seat. So in a way, I'm sad because every time I'm on A4, I don't get to hang out with Swiftly. I don't get to hang out with Freems because they all come on after I leave. But again, like, I support what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
Cut the commercial, man. Let people know who you are, where you're at, what the dealio
Twitch-
is, what you do.
Twitch.tv/A4Andre already has a lot. So I'm very fortunate. I would just say spread the love. If I can allocate my time to supporting content creators, it means the world to me that you sub to your favorite Twitch channel. This should probably be your favorite Twitch channel, but whatever that channel is, break them off a little $5. I mean, they only get half of it. I know you don't have sub unlocked here, but I like in whatever way you can support content creators. If you can retweet their stream, if you can like, comment, and subscribe on their YouTube, if you can give them a $4.99, I think James would probably agree that it's going to go a lot further than your Hulu, than your Netflix, than your Disney Plus, and they don't fucking need it, but it means a lot to us on the small scale of things. So not just my stream, but whatever stream you go into, if you have a little and can support the content, please fucking do it. It means a lot to streamers, not just me. Whatever stream you watch, chip in, please.
And that's Andre. You asked him to cut a promo about himself, and he spends 2 minutes telling you should donate to other small streamers. This is why I fucking dig you, Andre.
I love you, brother.
Battle Lounge, aka Supreme, aka the Master. Where can people find you? What you do? What's the haps?
I'm not a streamer, but you can often find me at A4Andre's channel. I like to hop in and shoot the shit. And
okay,
thank you for having me on.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me on. It was a fun chat, and I'm gonna go get some rest now. But I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Later, brother.
Peace out. So that is the Battle Lounge, aka Supreme. Supreme is awesome. There's Andre. There's the Battle Lounge. Okay, cool. We got everybody in there. I love how Battle Lounge just like
he never wants
stakes out now. He does the quick cut. He's like, I'm out. Peace.
he never wants a commercial, but I honestly think his channel is going to be crazy good. I think like I said earlier, I think he's honing, I think he's refining, and I think he doesn't want to do the marketing until the product is ready, but the product, it's already so good. But check it out now. Get a front row seat to the Battle Lounge because it's going to be fucking big.
Yo, when y'all talk about that stuff, like I have the corporate background. I've been telling act.tv everything I've done for the last 5 years. I have the very simple corporate philosophy of nail it, then scale it.
Yes, nail it, then scale it.
100% before you ramp it. Like, you have to. Like, you don't go, oh, we'll just work out the bugs as we go along. Like, get your shit tight first.
Yes, yes.
Like, I didn't know what I was going to do for months. We were just like, we're going to go on Twitch and talk about politics. That was our plan.
And it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to run commercials for the thing that you haven't figured out. And I think once he figures it out, his channel is going to be fucking enormous. So I can't wait. But you can see it now before it's big. You can get an autograph now. You know what I mean? Because it's going to blow up. And then, Supreme's ego through the roof. You won't be able to reach him.
I love hanging out in Supreme's room. He'll be like playing a fun game, and he'll be like semi-narrating, doing voices. And then the next thing I know, he's having like a serious economic debate between like touring news and a PhD economist. And you're just like, how'd that happen?
It's not just that he's intelligent and funny. It's also that he's like kind and willing to like hold your hand some of the time, right? Which he's done a lot for me. So let me plug his channel again, twitch.tv/the Battle Lounge. James, I'm going to get the fuck out of here, but I appreciate your time, sir.
I appreciate you waking up early, and I'll be back on Wednesday, but I'm sure
I'll see you Wednesday, brother. Take it easy.
I'm going to see you. Be good, Andre. Cheers.